Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of ARA, Anxiety Recovery with Albright. If you're new here or you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Medley Albright, and Albright is an ex-anxiety sufferer who uses her own experience of suffering and recovery to help others who are still struggling. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed yet, I would urge you to watch this video up to the end. If you feel like this video is valuable, if you feel like you want to see more of these videos on your timeline, kindly hit that subscription button. Otherwise, let's get started into the video. So in this particular video, I want to talk about some truths concerning emotions. If you have been following me for a long time, you know emotions were a big struggle for me. I had other struggles. I had, like, for example, shortness of breath, heart palpitations, heart symptoms were a struggle for me, earworms, but also emotions were a struggle for me. I used to deal with emotions of anger, sadness, deep depression, emotions of guilt, emotions of jealousy. Like, sometimes I just used to see people out there living their lives and I'm just like, okay, now why is this one not struggling with anxiety? Like, this one is just happy in their lives. Because I was stuck in this state. I didn't know how to get myself out of that state. I believed that I'm a person who was supposed to be out there living carefree, but now I was stuck with depression. I was stuck with physical symptoms of anxiety. I was stuck with the panic attacks. So it brought resentment. I was jealous. Like, you can't deal with different types of emotions when struggling with anxiety. It is not, it is not something out of the ordinary. Emotions, actually intense emotions, are part of anxiety. So in this particular video, I want to talk about some truths concerning emotions. If emotions is something that you struggle with and sometimes you don't know how to go over them, you find that, okay, emotions overpower you. If there was something, before I knew better, if there was something that used to instantly ruin my mood, like, at some point I could handle the physical symptoms, but the emotions were a struggle for me. When I felt sad, when I felt depressed, I was just like, I can't get out of bed. That is when I didn't know better. But when I educated myself about emotions, I educated myself on the anxiety subject, I was able to live with those emotions by my side, and as a result, they went away. So I want to talk about some truths concerning emotion. One of the truths concerning emotions when struggling with anxiety is that emotions don't reflect reality. When struggling with anxiety, emotions are not facts. Do not believe your emotions when struggling with anxiety, because when we are struggling with anxiety, when we are sensitized, when we're in the fight or flight state, we are bound to deal with those emotions. We are emotionally exhausted, we are mentally exhausted, we are physically exhausted. So as a result, we feel frustrated and we are flooded with different types of emotions. Also, something is that, when we are in the fight or flight state, your brain believes that there is this fear that you need to fight, so it bombards you with the stress hormones, the adrenaline, the cortisol. And because there is no threat that you need to fight, because there is no threat that you need to flee away from, that adrenaline just settles in our body. The stress hormones, they just settle in your body, and as a result, it brings up a pool of emotions. The frustrations brought by anxiety, the excess, stress hormones that have nowhere to go to, the constantly feeling emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted, feeling physically exhausted, brings all these emotions. So emotions do not reflect reality. That's why you find that if you're someone struggling with feelings of impending doom is where you always feel like something bad is about to happen. You're constantly panicking, your brain is always on high alert scanning, you feel like there is something that wants to happen. We call it feeling of impending doom. So let me ask you, has something bad ever happened? With anxiety, the threat is our emotions, the threat is how you feel, the threat is the physical symptom. Something bad is never going to happen. With anxiety, you may feel like, it's just a feeling of something bad happening, but there is nothing that is going to happen. It's a feeling, but nothing is going to happen. So if you feel, when you struggle with feelings of impending doom, when you struggle with feelings of unreality, where you always feel like, you are losing your mind, when you struggle with, fear of death, you feel like you're not gonna have a heart attack and you're gonna die, because of the heart symptoms. So with anxiety, we feel like something bad is about to happen, but really there is nothing that is about to happen. We are just fearful of how you feel. You're just fearful of, the physical symptoms that you struggle with. That is the fear with anxiety. So do not believe your emotions when struggling with anxiety. Even if you feel like, the feelings of impending doom, the feelings of unreality, you feel like, you're gonna die the next minute, you feel like you're gonna lose your mind, it's not gonna happen. Already, if you have been watching these videos, you know why you experience feelings of unreality. You know why you experience, the feeling of impending doom. You know why you always feel, like literally you're gonna have a heart attack. So it's just about understanding. It's just about educating yourself. When you educate yourself on what is happening, you will learn that you literally don't need to believe those emotions. They are a fallacy. They are symptoms of a sensitized brain. They are symptoms of a tired mind. So the first truth that I've mentioned there is that emotions do not comport reality. Emotions are not facts when you are struggling with anxiety. The second truth when struggling with anxiety is that anxious and negative emotions are part of being human. Anxious and negative emotions are part of being human. A lot of anxiety sufferers, they tend to distract themselves when they are facing, the negative emotions, the anxious emotions. They believe it's themselves, like you are the one who is struggling. People don't struggle with, the negative emotions. People are just living their lives. Even unsensitized people, even people who have never struggled with anxiety, they experience bad days, they experience rough days, but they are not going to stop their day because they are experiencing a rough day. So the same with anxiety. Sometimes you might experience setbacks. If you have not watched the video concerning setbacks, go and watch it here. I'm plugging it here. Sometimes human beings, we experience bad days. Sometimes we, even like literally, is it a day before yesterday, someone hurt me really bad, but I didn't stop my day because that person hurt my feelings. I was just like, I'm gonna continue with my day despite having those feelings with me. Sometimes I also use the skills that I learned from anxiety to navigate through life. I still use those skills up to now, because if pre-me, before struggling with anxiety, if it was someone hurt me like that, I would have created drama out of it. But right now I just learned to let the emotions pass, just sitting with the emotions and learning that sometimes we are not always gonna have good days. Sometimes we have bad days, sometimes we have good days, but it's just about how you navigate through them. So anxious energy, you need to learn that anxious energy and negative emotions are part of being human. You trying to make them go away is the reason why you are stuck with those negative emotions. Emotions are, if you try to make emotions go away, your brain, you're sending a wrong signal to the subconscious part of the brain that these emotions are dangerous. So the subconscious brain, when it sees that these emotions are dangerous, you want them, it treats them as a threat. So as a result, it sends you more of the stress hormones and more of the emotions that you don't want, because those are the emotions that you are afraid of. Those are the emotions that you have shown your brain that they are a threat. So anxious emotions and negative emotions are part of anxiety, and you need to sit with them. You need to allow them to be there. Don't try to suppress them. Don't try to stop them. That is the reason why you are stuck with them. A lot of people, even me, when I was struggling with anxiety, I used to avoid places, I used to avoid life because they brought stressors. I used to distract myself from anxiety. I used to distract myself from those negative emotions, the anxious energy. And you know what you don't realize is that these places that you are avoiding life, that is the way to retrain your brain. That is the way to rewire your brain. So if you are avoiding these places, if you are avoiding life, how is the brain gonna rewire itself? You have to face these places, you have to face life, you have to deal with these emotions. Face your fears without fighting the emotions that you have. Allow them to be there. And I'm not saying ignore, I'm saying allow, because when I say ignore, it will be like the emotions are not there. The emotions are there. You allow and accept those emotions without fighting. And acceptance, you don't accept so that it can go away immediately. That will be just you, like the breathing techniques, that will be you doing something to make them go away. You don't accept today and expect the emotions to go away today. Acceptance is not another tool like the breathing techniques, like the yoga, to use to make your symptoms go away immediately. Acceptance is a practice to calm down your nerves, and when your nerves are calm, the symptoms are gonna go away as a consequence. So the thing there is to face your fears. Don't run away. When you face your fears, they lose their power towards you. So face your fears and the emotions will go away as a consequence. The third truth about emotions is that the emotions we avoid the most are the emotions we feel the most. If you avoid an emotion, that's what the brain will keep sending to you, because to your brain, that emotion is a threat. The fact that you're avoiding it, the subconscious registers that emotion is a threat, and it will keep sending you that emotion your way, so that you can either fight that emotion or flee away from that emotion. So avoiding an emotion, right now when I tell you not to think of an elephant, haven't you thought of an elephant? And if you try to not think of an elephant, is when you will think about that elephant the most. So emotions you avoid, don't try to suppress an emotion. Your brain will bring you more of that emotion. Once I learned that, I never had a problem with emotions. I allowed emotions with my open arms. I said, it is what it is, let whatever come, because if I try to avoid that emotion, it's when I will struggle with it the most. It is a struggle, because when you say you want to avoid feeling a certain emotion, you will keep on fighting not feeling that emotion. And when you keep on fighting that emotion, you will always be engaging that emotion. Are you seeing like that loop? If you don't want to feel a certain emotion, that means you will always be suppressing it, always trying to stop it. Isn't that engaging it? And the fact that you're engaging it, you're giving it attention, and the brain sends you more of that emotion. Avoiding an emotion is a sport, and that's what you will keep thinking about. That's what, okay, how can I avoid feeling this emotion? How can I suppress this emotion? How can I stop this emotion? So avoiding an emotion gives you more of that emotion. Carl Jung says that what you resist persists, and you will not feel better by trying to feel better. You will only feel better by willing to feel bad. If you no longer care about those emotions, they literally just dissipate. But if you care about those emotions, you will have more of them. So avoiding an emotion keeps you stuck with an emotion. Allow those emotions to be there, and they will lose their power towards you. The fourth truth about emotion, we're in the the fourth truth about emotion is that if we leave emotions untouched, they will always pass. I'm a living testimony that emotions always pass. At the beginning, I struggled so much with my emotions. I didn't want to feel those emotions of sadness. I didn't want to feel angered all the time. I didn't want to, feel shame all the time, guilt, depression. So I was struggling against my emotions, and emotions always overpower logic. Like, emotions will always overpower logic. You want to suppress that emotion, you want to make them stop, you will get more of it. Emotions will always overpower you if you struggle against them. Emotions are like waves. Let them come and go. When you let your emotions come and go, you no longer give them power, and they will dissipate because you are no longer struggling against those emotions. When you worry about emotion, when you try to make it go away, when you overthink an emotion, worrying means more anxiety, and more anxiety brings you these same emotions that you're trying to stop, that you're trying to suppress, that you're trying to make go away. So do not fuel the anxiety cycle by worrying about emotions. Emotions will always go away when you let them pass, when you let them be there without adding mental second fears, without adding physical second fears, like mental second fears like worrying, overthinking, trying to make them go away, figuring them out. Physical second fears like trying to do something to make them go away, avoiding certain places, googling, seeking reassurance about them. Those are the same things keeping you stuck with those emotions. And emotions were a struggle. I'm always more passionate talking about emotions because they were a real struggle for me. And at some point, it is one of the reasons that made me feel like I was having bipolar, because I've told you, when you're struggling with anxiety, at some point when you still don't know that you have anxiety, you start googling, you start getting on the internet, you want to know what is wrong with you. And at first, because of the rage of emotions that I was having, because of the intense emotions that I was having, I always felt like I wanted to cry. So in my mind, I was just like, maybe it is bipolar. It is not bipolar, it is anxiety. And once you know how to deal with those emotions, they will always pass. It is your feeling. You're the one standing on the way. It is you feeling those emotions. If you learn to give them space, if you learn to step away and let those emotions be there, they are intense, let them be there. You are feeling sad, you are feeling emotional, you are feeling depressed, go on with your day with those emotions there. Do not stop your day, do not stop living your life because you are having those emotions. Live your life with those emotions there. That's how you train your brain. That's how those emotions lose their power over you. The fifth truth about emotions is that recovery from these emotions is about changing your relationship with them. Recovery from these emotions is not the absence of those emotions. It's about losing your fear towards these emotions, and as a result, those emotions will go away as a consequence. A lot of anxiety recovery, apart from acceptance and allowing, which are the main keys to overcome anxiety, mindset is also a big thing, because how you see those, how you see anxiety as a whole. Are you seeing them as an enemy? Are you seeing them as something that has come to destroy your life? Or you're just seeing them as symptoms of a tired mind? You're just seeing them, you're like, your brain is tired, your body is releasing the past chronic stress that you have put it through. It's just about how you see these symptoms. I gave a good example with how I handle feelings of unreality. To me, to many people, feelings of unreality is a big struggle, but to me, how I saw it, that's the point that I realized that emotions like anxiety as a whole, it's just how you see them. To me, I enjoyed feelings of unreality. It was just like, I'm feeling high, I don't have to use money to go to the shops to buy the feeling of being high. I literally, it is just God-given. I literally just have it. So it's just how you see them. So to me, feelings of unreality was just like, I'm feeling this because my mind is tired from the chronic stress that I put it through. It couldn't take it anymore, and now I'm feeling high, and it went away. It was one of my symptoms to go away. So it's about how you see them. Recovery from the emotions is not about how, it's not about not having those emotions. It's about how you see those emotions, changing your relationship with those emotions. It is not the absence of these emotions. It is how you handle them. It is unlearning the fear towards them. And as a result, those emotions are gonna go away as a consequence. Are you getting my point? You will realize how those emotions are harmless, and you trying to use logic to make them go away actually keeps you stuck. Emotions always outweigh logic. So the best thing is let them be there and allow them to pass. They lose their power over you. So those are the 5 truths about emotions. Anxious and negative emotions are part of being human. Emotions, if left untouched, will always pass. Always pass. I'm a living testimony. Emotions are not facts. Especially when struggling with anxiety, do not believe your emotions. They are not facts. They don't comport reality. Recovery from these emotions is about changing your relationship with those emotions. It is not the absence of those emotions. It is changing your relationship with those emotions. And the fifth is that emotions we try to avoid the most are the emotions we feel the most. Hope you have learned some truths about emotions and the behaviors that are keeping you stuck with those emotions. If you want to work on one with me, remember I have a coaching program that I help people overcome anxiety disorders permanently. If that's something that you want to look into, you feel like you don't need to figure out everything on your own, and I'm here. The best person to help you with your anxiety is someone who has gone through it, someone who has won that shoe, even if it's not me, someone else. So if you want to work one-on-one with me, if you want to join my coaching program, I help you overcome anxiety disorders. We discuss your specific situation. When I'm talking here, I don't know your specific situation. I'm talking about my own experience and just the general understanding about anxiety. So if you feel like you are stuck, you feel like you don't need to figure out everything on your own, you feel like time has gone and you want to collapse time, use this WhatsApp or this email to reach out to me. Otherwise, let's meet on the next video.